Hey beautiful beaders, it's Gina from orchidandopal.com, and I am so excited to bring you guys some more finished pieces. Today is Tuesday, January 22nd, and a lot of you know that I like to not only do unboxings on my channel, but I also like to show you what I do with all the beads and findings that I get in those boxes. It's a lot of fun. This time, this finished jewelry update's a little bit different. Everything you're going to see here today has been inspired by the January 2019 bargain bead box. A lot of you have seen that video, but if not, I'm going to leave the link up there in the corner so you can take a look at it. And as many of you guys are aware that did see the video or did receive the box, we received a lot of rose gold, we received a lot of glass crystal, we received some of these agate crackle beads, some of these imitation opal beads, things like that. Very elegant. Now, my personal jewelry style is simple elegance. I like to make pieces that are very wearable, and I also like to show you guys pieces that aren't too difficult to recreate if you're interested. These videos I like to do not to show off what I made, but to hopefully inspire you all with the materials that you probably got in your boxes as well, to give you some ideas that you might be able to recreate, or maybe inspire you to create something similar. I know it's always helpful for me to see things that other people do with the same material. So if you're interested in learning more about the bargain bead box, you can check out the information section below this video. I will have a link to their site so you can sign up for their subscription if you'd like to. And you can also use the code OPAL2, OPAL2, to save $2 off your first month's box if you're interested. So I actually made 11 pieces that were inspired by the box. I had a lot of fun putting different things together. I made 5 necklaces, 4 bracelets, and 2 pairs of earrings. So let's start with what you see here. The first item is this necklace, and as you can see, I used the clear briolets that came in the box as well as the chain. I also used a toggle clasp, and that is because I actually don't have any rose gold color lobster clasps or any other clasp. I was extremely limited on the rose gold findings, which is probably the case, I'm guessing, with most of you who are watching. So I did have to use toggle clasp. Ideally, I like to use lobster claw clasps on my necklaces with a little extender. That way the sizes are adjustable. I do plan on ordering some lobster clasps in this finish, and that way I can add them on later with a little extender chain. But for the purpose of this video, it definitely works, and I know that's what you guys have in many cases as well, because they did include some of those toggle clasps in the box. So here's a little bit closer look of the necklace. It's extremely simple. So basically all I did was take the chain, and I decided to use, I believe it's 9 briolets. I like to use odd numbers in my designs a lot. And I found the middle of my chain, I hung a briolet right in the center, and then I just kind of skipped the same number of links and added another briolet on either side until I had done the full 9. I just did some simple wire wrapping. So I did have some copper colored wire in my stash, some 20 gauge and some 24 gauge. So you're going to see a lot of different wire in my projects as well. That's something I pulled from my stash. You'll also see some seed beads and some other findings that came in a August bargain bead box that also had a rose gold theme. And I do want to mention real quick, I do have a tendency to look at each piece. I like to go into detail and explanation on each piece because I want to explain to you my thought process, my design process, and where all these materials came from. I know most of you appreciated it, and most of you have told me so. For those of you who don't like the explanation or don't want to sit through me talking about each piece, feel free to fast forward to the next one. It won't hurt my feelings at all. I can't please everybody, but I think that's a great way to kind of make everybody happy that I will include my explanations. And if you don't have the time or desire to listen, just feel free to skip ahead. So anyway, the chain was the Rolo chain that they included, which is really nice. It is a chain that you can pull apart with your pliers. They're not closed links, they're actually open links, so it was easy to pull sections apart rather than actually using your pliers to cut them apart. Like I said, very simple design, just basic wire wrapping to add those beautiful briolets, and I think it is a very wearable and elegant piece. So that's the first necklace I made. This was actually the last thing I made from the items from the box, And I actually didn't have any rose gold ear wires, but I looked up a fantastic tutorial on YouTube on how to make your own ear wires. I've actually been using that tutorial before when I needed to do that, and I'll post the link to that tutorial below. But you can actually make 2 at a time this way, and these were made out of the 20 gauge copper wire that I had in my stash, which happens to coordinate really well with the rose gold findings. So as you can see, I actually had the last 2 briolets that I hadn't used up that I decided to use in these earrings to kind of dangle off the end. I also had a couple of the crackly agate beads and the imitation opal glass beads as well left over, and I thought they made a beautiful pair of earrings. And then I used the 24 gauge wire that I had to do the little wire wraps. It's just more flexible and more pliable than the 20 gauge. And I do want to mention too, because I made a couple of different pairs of earrings and I did have to make my own ear wires, I would love to have the tool that actually smooths the edges of the ear wires. I just don't have that yet, so it's on my list of things to purchase. But it is a good idea if you're making your own to be able to like kind of smooth them out. There's probably another way to do it. If you know, just leave me a comment below. You guys are so helpful. But it just kind of smooths the edges and kind of sands them out without taking the finish off. So just wanted to mention that real quick. So then I have this other bracelet that's been sitting here, and this was actually a really fun project. This is not my design. This was something I found again on YouTube, somebody else's tutorial that I will post a link to in my description section. But like I said, I had a lot of wire and I was looking at these rondelles, trying to figure out something to do with them. I was really trying to find unique ways for you guys to use these beads in different projects, not just stringing projects, because that's not very out of the box. Of course, stringing projects are fantastic, but I just don't think it makes for as interesting of a video to show you all the different ways you can really stretch your imagination and use these materials. So if you happen to have the wire in your stash, or maybe you want to pick some up, or maybe you want to do this on a totally different project. I know a lot of people have wire and rondelles in their stash, and you could do virtually any color combination. I think this would actually look awesome with different colored wire. This is a very easy project. Me and wire do not get along that well, and we're trying to be friends. And this was a great beginner's project. So if you're not very familiar, or maybe you're not like an expert in making really intricate wire jewelry, this might be a great place for you to start. So again, check out that link below. But it was a great way for me to use these rondelles. And let me try it on for you guys so you can see. It actually came out really nice. I'm very pleased with it. And I just made my own little hook closure, very simple with the wire I had. But there it is. And isn't that just so nice and just simple and elegant? Really like this design. I'm definitely going to save that tutorial and use it in some other colors. So before I move on to some of the other things I have over to my side, I am wearing another bracelet that I made. And I just want to mention I did use black 15-0 seed beads in this bracelet, and ideally I would have had clear or rose gold or white, because that would have really gone with everything else that I did that I'm going to show you. But anyway, this was a great way to use the 4mm bicones that we received in the box. This is a netted seed bead bracelet, and you can find these tutorials all over the place on YouTube. However, I didn't find one that just made the rows of 2. Everything that I was looking up was a much wider bracelet, and I just didn't feel like making a wider bracelet. This is kind of more ideal for the width that I personally prefer. So I went ahead and played around and just kind of used those same techniques to do a seed bead netting, but just made it thinner, and I think it came out great. So I did pull these rose gold color metallic seed beads that I had from my stash, so I fortunately did have those. If you don't have these, you could use white 11-0s or virtually any other color you wanted to in order to make a netted bracelet like this. I know a lot of more experienced beaders have definitely probably tried this particular stitch. If not, just look up seed bead netted bracelet, or I might plan to do a tutorial on a thinner one down the road, because like I said, didn't easily come up with one. I'm sure that's not to say there isn't one, but I'd like to do one on my channel at some point. Just used a toggle clasp. And then I love to use wire guardians, but I only had copper, like more of an antique copper. So you'll notice on some of these pieces I did have to use some antique copper findings with these pieces, which isn't ideal, but I'm a big proponent of using what you have, and I think that it works out fine in a lot of cases. And I love these netted bracelets using the 4mm bicones, especially when you do different colors that are striped diagonally. I think it's really, really neat, and I do plan to do more of those. So moving right along, we got these amazing electroplated quartz chunky crystal beads, which had nice big holes, and you could really stretch your imagination. You could put these on some cording, you could put them on some chain. I decided to put them on some beading wire, and because there were 5, it was a nice odd number. I had this one that was larger than the others. I thought it made a really nice focal, so I decided to use this in the center and then kind of graduate the sizes on either side. I had these bead caps in my stash from the August bargain bead box, used some of the spacers from the January box, and again some of the chain from the January box. And then, just to make it a little bit more interesting, I did add some of those glass opal beads, and I just added some clear bicones from my stash, did some simple wire wrapping to make some of these links of beads, but I thought the opal glass beads kind of imitated the color of these pretty well, and then the bicones I used have the AB finish, which imitates the AB finish look that these crystals have. So I thought that came out really nice. Again, I used a toggle clasp. Ideally, I would like to use a lobster clasp. Then you may remember that we received that gorgeous Tree of Life pendant. It's just this huge, very substantial quartz crystal that was wire wrapped. Just beautiful. It came like that. And I didn't want to really take away from the overall design of it because I thought it stood out enough on its own. So I just added some sections of chain, and to make it a little bit more interesting, I did wire wrap some 4mm crystal bicones that we also received in the box kind of along the chain as it went up. And I did about 3 of those going up the chain, and I made it a nice long necklace that will sit further down on the chest. And for this one I didn't add a clasp because of the length of it. This next piece is a bracelet. This is a design that I came up with completely on my own. I was searching around for different patterns using the crystal cube beads, and I found a few, but not very many. So I decided that I would just play around with some seed beads and some cubes and try to come up with something that I liked. And I really like how this came out. It feels really nice. I like the way it looks from all sides, even on the side, the bottom, the top. I think it looks really, really cool. I love how these cube beads kind of sit up a little bit, but yet each of them is kind of wrapped in the seed beads. I used a toggle clasp on this. If you guys are interested, I can do a tutorial on this bracelet in the future. I would like to play around with it a little bit more and tweak it, but I really love how it came out. I actually thought I had more cube beads in my stash, and I don't. Otherwise, I would have started to make a few in some other colors. It was a really fun project. So this is how it looks on the wrist, just like that. It's pretty neat. I did run out of the particular size that we had in the box to do it, so I did have to grab some that were a little bit bigger from my stash. So it didn't come out quite as ideal as I would like it to, but I think overall the design came out really nice, and I'm excited to play with it some more. So there's that. Here's another necklace that I made using one of those beautiful leaf findings that they sent. They sent, I believe, like 4 of those pieces. And I'll be honest, one of them did break. I was trying to bend it a little bit to make a bracelet, and I wanted to make the leaf kind of mold just slightly around my wrist. And I had it perfect, but then I tweaked it too much, and I bent it too much to the point where it broke, and that was completely my fault. I could have left it just slightly bent like I originally had it. These are very strong and they do not bend easily, and I don't recommend bending them. I was just trying to come up with a new way to use them, and it didn't work out so well for me. So anyway, I had a bunch of the glass opal imitation beads left over from the box, and I wanted to use those. Of course, I had run out of chain by this time and most of my other beads from the box by this time, but I did have one of these. I did have my wire from my stash, and I had lots of these left over, as well as one more toggle clasp. So I decided to make a very simple wire-wrapped asymmetrical necklace, and I love how it came out. I just wire-wrapped 3 of these glass beads with a little rose gold colored seed bead on either end just to add a little bit more detail, and then just placed the leaf finding asymmetrically, which gives the piece a little bit more interest than just doing a straight necklace just like this. So just another idea if you want to try something asymmetrical. I know that's out of a lot of people's comfort zones, so that's an option there. And then finally I made a set. It is a necklace, earrings, and bracelet that could all be worn together. And I'm going to move that stuff out of the way. And that is this necklace here. So I used the crackled agate beads on this side and on this side, and then from my stash I pulled some white shell beads that were also from beadboxbargains.com, their sister site, and I used a lot of these rose gold spacers that they sent, as well as 2 of those leaf findings. As you can see, this toggle clasp came from the August 2018 box, as well as the little leaf charm right here. I had these in my stash and I hadn't used them yet, but I pulled them out because I thought it'd be a great opportunity since I really didn't have a lot of rose gold colored findings, and I wanted to try to incorporate those with these things as well. Again, had to use some copper findings that just weren't ideal, but they aren't too bad, so I'm not mad about it. So one thing I want to point out about the design, as you can see, is I kind of flip-flopped the beads. So I used white shell on this side and agate on this side, and then I flip-flopped them on the back right there. So that just makes it a little more interesting, and I also reversed the direction of the leaf findings. So that's the necklace I made that kind of uses these particular beads. I also made a pair of earrings, and like I said, I had to make my own ear wires. So I did that. I used 2 of the same charms at the bottoms of these earrings, and sorry about the glare on those, they're super shiny. Don't mean to blind anybody. And then I used just 1 shell bead and one of the spacers on each one of those earrings to coordinate. So very simple but very cute. And then finally I made a stretch bracelet, and I used some of the bead caps that they sent, the spacers, the agate, some shell beads from my stash, some of these spacers from the August box, and again I had one of these left over and I thought it made a cute little charm and looked really cute on this little bracelet. So that's kind of like a complete set right there. I think it turned out really nice. Alright guys, so that is it. Those are 11 pieces that were inspired by the January 2019 bargain bead box subscription. I hope this was helpful for you, or maybe you just enjoyed seeing what I've been up to. Please feel free to leave me a comment below. Let me know what maybe you've been making with some of these beads, or let me know what your favorite item is here that you saw today, or if you have any questions. Please let me know if my continuing to add the detail and explanation for each piece is helpful for you. And as always, thank you so much for being here to watch. I really appreciate each and every one of you. I plan to be back soon with more tutorials, more unboxings, and more finished jewelry updates just like this one. So I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your day, and as always, happy beading. If you enjoyed this video, I'd love you to give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell if you'd like to see more of my videos, and check out the video description section to follow along on all of my social media handles, and check out my new website and blog at orchidandopal.com. Thanks for watching!